Got my little sidekick here. Stephanie is joining us today. Tina will be back tomorrow and she will lead the conversation into religion. So, welcome in everybody. Today we are talking about spirituality. If there's anybody that is watching and there's any issues with the video, we are where we are able to make sure that we can still record and share space with you, but you should still be able to hear us. If for any reason you can't, comment down below because Stephanie's video got a little bit sketchy etchy, but um, we'll go from there. So, welcome in. Yesterday we did the overview to what our week is about, and that was the overview of spirituality, religion, and indoctrination. Kind of took you guys an overview of the light and shadow aspects of it. And today we're going to solely focus more on spirituality. I like to do Nicole's energy forecast to start out our show. And the energy today is, I just froze. What was it that I told to you? Be giving
I
yourself
don't
grace
remember.
and being in your space. Really, it's being easy with yourself. That's what it was because I went to go do this and then I froze. But today, let's be easy with ourselves. Okay. Every other day, if you want to let your mind rumble and control your outcomes or fear or grief or what have you, but today let's just be easy with ourselves and be in our knowing. Let's take a nice slow breath in and long breath out, breathing out any of the bullshit that we don't want in our energy anymore. So, welcome in, welcome in. As we go deeper into spirituality, what it is, what it isn't, and how you can begin to deepen your own connection with spirituality in a way that feels true with you. It's not about telling you what to believe, it's about helping you connect to your own truth. Like I have shared for many, many moons, spirituality is an individual, unique, one of a kind journey. So always take what resonates, leave what doesn't. The journey is yours. So when we talk about spirituality, a simple definition really is just the internal relationship that you have with yourself, your intuition, your inner awareness, something greater, however you want to define that. Some may use God, source, universe, higher self, whatever that looks like to you. It's individual and it's not wrong, right, Steph? There is
Right.
no wrong way to have a spiritual journey as long as it's authentic to you. But as I say that, there is a shadow aspects, right, when it comes to spirituality too, that we'll get into as we go a little bit further on because we want to always look at spirituality as a tool that works for you and with you as a map and not out of a means for evading life's troubles or shadows that could be circulating in your environment and acknowledging them both. So, Steph, I want to ask you this, I think, is a great time. What does spirituality look like for you at this current place of your journey?
Um, to me, it is finding a way to calm and ground myself. Um, get rid of the outside noise. I will always say that because that is a struggle for me, is the outside noise, and also even the noise inside my head.
Mm,
I block myself a lot. I overthink things a lot, second guess myself. So part of what I'm looking for in my spiritual journey is just being able to find my true authentic self and trust in myself.
mm. Trust in myself. That is so true. Trusting your inner self. What a profound concept, right? When we really, really start to look at that, there's like almost layering process that happens, right? Because spirituality, it's not something that you can follow. It's something that you experience, right?
Hmm.
And that's what makes it so individual and so unique. And I could say I've always had a spiritual essence, an inner knowing, whether it's connecting uh, with source or my guides, or just as simple as with your intuition, thinking about somebody and then they call, or um, thinking about somebody who has passed over and then an animal symbol comes through. Those are different beautiful layers to spirituality that are uniquely divine to you. Some may have more experiences and meanings with butterflies. For me, that's a transformation. After my father passed, it became Butterfly Kisses song from him. And so now there's just a new layer of meaning. I feel like spirituality is kind of like the unlayering of limiting beliefs. Ooh, thank you, guides. Of limiting false beliefs that are shedding, and in that shedding, new layers of our own beliefs can come to the surface. And in doing that, it's about the self-awareness, right? You mentioned pretty much the inner peace in the chaos,
Yeah.
right? But when does spirituality become too light? There's an honest taboo type question to truly ask as well. When are we being um, too positive and everything's wonderful, if things are really happening around us? So, if you
Hmm.
want to look at spirituality, what it looks like in the light, that is definitely back to the inner peace, empowerment, intuition, trust, your connection to the universe, again, like we mentioned. But a collective example, too, is more people are questioning old beliefs. And using that reference right there on a collective level, Steph, how have you seen that show up? Maybe even in your own environment, or people awakening more to their emotional intelligence. Tina spoke about that, the EQ, just the other day.
Hmm. Um, I like how you're talking about having quote unquote too much light, because I think then it's not authentic, it's not true,
Hmm.
because nothing is perfect 100% of the time. As much as you want to believe it, or you're trying to almost psych yourself up to believe it, to bring it to fruition, it's not always 100% light. And I think if you live that way,
You're
then
breaking up.
you're really thinking, am I better now?
Nope, you're breaking up. Ear.
Oh, what is going on with my phone?
There you go. That should be better.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're blurry, but I can hear you better though. And we'll just
Okay.
audio it too. So
So I think that if you're living like it's 100% light all the time, I don't think that it's authentic. And I think that you're preparing yourself for a crash is what you're doing.
yeah, or or you're not prepared,
That
and the
too.
crash just comes. It just comes
Okay.
rolling.
You're
Yes,
setting yourself up for a crash is what you're doing.
right. Because we got to realize that light needs shadow. Shadow. I mean, light casts shadows, and it's in
Yeah.
those shadows where we can start to find individual understanding of how we're operating from a limiting belief. Because as collectively we're seeing everybody questioning old systems, and they could be in forms of various religious systems, um, maybe more so questioning just to the depths in which they go, that are not aligning with the natural rhythm of how the individual experience is meant to be. But a way to see that you are in the light, are great couple examples of spirituality in a balanced way, is you begin trusting your gut. Even if somebody around you is saying, no, this is definitely blue, okay? You're going to
Mm-hmm.
trust. And if, for anybody who's not going to be watching this and listens, I'm holding a very red bottle. Um, so even if the world is showing up that way, your nervous system's more regulated. You're more feeling not anxious and anxiety and debating. You're more allowing. When we're in our spiritual energy and we're trusting our gut, then what we're hearing is not going to debate itself. If
Mm-hmm.
it's debating itself, then that means we're living more in the mind and outer body structures. So that's where we want to reset. Just an example of if somebody's like, well, how do I do that? There's kind of a quick way that you guys can always try out. You'll feel more grounded in your decisions because you'll start seeing when you're going upstream. You know what it feels like to go upstream when there's a really heavy stream going? It is a pain in the ass, or going against the tides. And then there just comes a time on your journey where you're like, the drama or the chaos, or you know what I mean, fighting these battle. I let go. You ever have that moment where you're like, I just give up. I just give in. I just
Yes.
can't do it anymore. That is the moment of awareness, and that is the moment where spirituality will come knocking, right in that moment, because in that moment it's like you let go, and it's in letting go that you start to flow.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the rapids show, you know that these rapids are here because they're just sending, there's something for me, there's an opportunity here. Okay, but still flow. You said, oh, my favorite, you set boundaries without guilt. Oh my god, I love dancing
Mm-hmm.
in them. I
Yep.
dance in my boundaries now. Two and
Yeah.
a half years ago, I was like, boundaries, that's so rude. What? No. Boundaries, if you don't have them, you're being rude to yourself, most of all, because you're not able to show up authentically because you're going to be more into people pleasing. Look, 1044. Light worker number. I love that number. But truthfully, but I lost where I was at now with with the boundaries. You when you step more into your inner knowing, right? You also step out of like guilt and shame kind of thoughts, being harder on yourself, right? So those boundaries you feel more powerful with. Steph, throw me an example of or how you can relate there with boundaries that might even be new ones or ones that you've always had, or through your experience you've noticed that you've started to put up.
Recently, some people that just weren't, they weren't healthy for me. Whether it be just their negative attitude, personality, the way that they weren't authentic, they um, were more about themselves, or me reaching out to people constantly and not getting a response, or getting a maybe some other time, or I can't, I'm busy right now, but then you see them doing things with other people. And
Mm.
at that point, it's not worth my time. I'm putting way too much energy into trying to be around this person or bring this person into my life, and it's obviously not what they want. And so now it's, I'm done. And they may reach out, may not reach out, but at this point, it's a boundary, and it's not somewhere that I'm going back to. I'm not crossing that line again.
Right, pouring into people's cups that are willing to pour back
Hmm.
into yours.
Right.
Right, because and that goes back to people pleasing, and that's something definitely that outer structures can create. Not speaking any ill will towards these structures, they all
Hmm.
worked as a starting point. Spirituality just helps you define where you want to go from those points that aligns
Right.
with you, because I can completely relate with that girl with just wanting to have a relationship with people that knowingly or unknowingly, or for whatever their reasons may be, weren't aligned. And I would put a lot of how I'd be able to show up for myself in my life based on other people's responses or
Hmm.
or thoughts of me.
Right.
That was a big one, and that's an easy one to do. You were gonna
Or
say something?
even feel like you're feeling left out or not wanted, and really it's ends up being a good thing that you were quote unquote left out, because it's not something that you or myself wanted to actually do. It was just wanting to be, around somebody that you were close with at one time. And but what they're doing isn't what I want to do in my life. So it wasn't healthy for me. So now I'm
And
not being left out. I'm being there for myself.
yes, you are owning your space.
Yes.
Owning your space and the people who want to be a part of that space with you in a way that is at the level of deserving that you absolutely deserve. That's what you end up pulling in when we can acknowledge what we're pulling in isn't working for us, then we can create space for what we want to inevitably come in. Another form of spirituality, getting, like Stephanie says, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is
Yes.
very important on this journey for growth, because keep in mind, what we can, if we keep doing the same things we always did, we're going to get the same things we always got. Having systems are great, but having systems that evolve are even better. And if we can have those systems for ourselves, since we are always ever evolving, so love evolution, then we will constantly be on a journey of gratitude and opportunity rather than on a journey of fear or feeling stuck or inadequate or drained, right? That is the power that we can have on our individual, unique spiritual journey when we can have these conversations. The light of spirituality brings you back home to yourself. And what does that home look like for you? Does it mean physically? It means in here. Again, back to being the peace in the chaos and seeing where you might be creating the chaos, right? Also, us having to be
Hmm.
mindful of where we could be creating very much so, because in spirituality, we have to see our roles as to why we were putting ourselves into these situations or these dynamics, because at one time or another, we felt that it was helping us somehow,
Hmm.
right? That's how we hold on to it until we start identifying with the fact of, is this actually helping me anymore? And then we can evolve into new belief systems.
And that's part of the getting uncomfortable, because it's not just like, I'm not talking about just uncomfortable situations. I'm talking about getting uncomfortable with facing why,
Mhm.
facing the shadows, or why I reacted this way, why this was my way to handle things. Getting You're going to get uncomfortable facing and healing through what caused that.
Yep. And then you find the purpose in it.
Mhm.
So it's acknowledging, again, another way of looking at this too, if you want to look at it in more of a psychological lens. Reparenting the inner child that went without, that is now leading the charge with those limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
facing yourself, because that's what it really is at the end of the day. The power lies within us. And no matter what, whether we're conscious or unconscious. However, if we're unconscious of the power that we have, then somebody else will use that power for themselves.
Yep.
So we just want to create a space where you guys are of the knowing of spirituality is an internal feeling journey that expresses uniquely designed to you. And now well, before we go into the shadow aspects, we're going to have Stephanie's purposeful pause.
Hopefully my phone doesn't cut out before I get through it. Um, so spirituality at its core isn't about seeking something outside of yourself. It's about clearing enough noise to hear what's already within. When you cultivate the stillness, reflection, and awareness, you begin to recognize your inner voice isn't random or unreliable. It's informed, grounded, and quietly consistent. That recognition is the gateway. Spirituality becomes the practice of trusting that inner knowing and inner authority is what emerges when you finally listen without second guessing. Synchronistic moments often feel like gentle confirmations along that path, not commands or guarantees, but meaningful alignments that catch your attention. They can reinforce what you already sense internally, but they're most useful when they point you back to your own discernment, not replace it.
Wow, that was so good. It was so, I know we should have paused a little silence there for a minute, but the reason why I wanted to jump in, I love that because it shows the aspects of the light and the shadow, the acknowledging of what can go unseen that is being shown all around us at all times if we're allowing ourselves the moment to
Mm-hmm.
see the reflection. I loved that. That was absolutely awesome. And it was a great segue in talking about the shadow aspects of spirituality. Because in life, in order to truly embody spirituality or embody your authentic truth, we have to acknowledge that we embody light and shadow. Or you can say divine masculine and divine feminine energies within. Okay? Because technically, if you wanted to look at it from that kind of a lens, the masculine would be considered the light and the divine feminine would be considered the shadow. So keep that in mind because we are the unseen. We go into the darker depths. It's the internal driver, the internal journey. Um, but it doesn't have to be like, oh, that means that I'm bad. No, not at all. It's where opportunity and the unraveling of those limited beliefs are found, reintegrated, redigested into something that you can move forward with. So, like an experience, like when we say shadow, it's where growth is asking to happen. Whew, whew. I love that I just read that moment because can I tell you, when I had my really unhealthy habits, I would get real uncomfortable when I couldn't get that substance that I wanted. It wouldn't be at a certain store. It wouldn't be here. A card wouldn't work. It'd get denied, but there's money on there. Um, the car won't start. Every red light that can happen. I
Mm-hmm.
want to use those examples as when you're living in your shadow and you know you're kind of doing something a little blah blah blah. That's the universe's way of trying to nudge you and letting you see, if that makes sense, kind of that we're kind of sitting in there in an unhealthy way,
Mm-hmm.
but still an experience that I believe, I feel on my journey we signed up for. So, like common shadow aspects is what we mention often: spiritual bypassing. Done this myself, where everything is love and light. I got a tattoo that says "Love all who loves all." That's a boundary one. Because you can love everybody at a soul level, but if they can't love themselves at a soul level, then you will never receive an ounce of that in return because people can only love as far as their deepest wound. It's a heavy one.
Mm-hmm. That is.
Um, in the shadow, we can avoid our emotions. If we're avoiding our emotions, for me, I was numbing them. That was me definitely avoiding the emotions. Did I understand that at the time? No, I was unconscious a lot of it. And giving yourself grace and knowing that if we're really in that shadow, that it now could be the conversation of conscious choice. It may be completely unconscious to you, but once it becomes made conscious to you, it's what you'll do with it from there. Because escaping reality and acting like there aren't hard things going on out there or in your life, escaping reality could be something as I got a bill that's piling up and it's past due, it's past due, it's past due. I just keep ignoring it, just keep ignoring it. No, it will take care of itself. It'll take care of itself. It'll take care of itself. Rather than that's trying to ignore. Rather than being like, okay, I don't have the means right now, but what can I do to get myself on track? Sitting with that energy, and then spirit and your guidance and your clarity come through with viable steps or people
Mm-hmm.
to be able to work through that. That's kind of making it like if you're bypassing, that's kind of acknowledging. It's kind of a sitting in it. Because you can't escape reality. I've done that too. Steph, are there any of the? Am I just every one of these bullet points, or do you feel a little bit of like, oh, I could see when? Am
Oh
I?
yeah, definitely. I know there's times where I've been sitting in that shadow and
Mhm.
just hoping it goes away, or even knowing ahead of time, like if I do this, I know this isn't good. I know that there is not going to be a good outcome if this happens or if I do it, but I do it anyways because I'm just stuck in that cycle.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I definitely understand everything that you're saying.
Well, and I love that you brought up cycle, because we energetically and on our spiritual journey, going back to learning about our birth charts and the way that energies work, that everything is patterned, everything is cyclical, and when we can see those behavioral patterns, we can see how it's showing up quicker and quicker for us to identify it,
Mm-hmm.
not avoid it. You ever
Yep.
see that too? Like I've definitely had that experience many times where I'm like, so an experience that would cycle once every few months started getting down to every month to every week, and I'm like, are you trying to make a point here? Are
Yes.
you trying to tell me something?
Yes. But then there's also the I know it's wrong. I know I continue to do this and I know I'm going to get the same result because you have to own it and you have to almost forgive yourself and not be ashamed of it because you have to face it. And if you're ashamed and hiding in that shame, you're not going to face it and you're going to continue that cycle.
Yeah. And shame and guilt will continue to lead your life.
Yep.
You will lead with whatever you are most avoiding,
Mhm.
right? Because that is so true, to definitely looking at the aspect of, man, my hair is herring today. I'm liking it. Checking myself like 8 times on here, guys. And the real, oh man, I lost where I was going with it. I got distracted with my hair and I lost my step. Um, what was the last thought that you said, if you even remember?
Um
Oh, the habit.
Giving yourself and yeah.
Yep, knowing the habit and repeating it. Yeah, so knowing the habit and repeating it, also being mindful too that what is this habit doing for me? And being mindful of, because it rooted from somewhere, and if we can acknowledge the why, we can have a better understanding of how to replace that habit into something that's like reparenting ourselves, right? More
Mhm.
structured, more in alignment with helping us move forward on our journey. And that's the importance of being able to sit in the shadow and acknowledging it. Because for many, many years, it was, I see I have these habits, but I've got to be everything for everybody else, and it's having me
Mhm.
function. Once I started having one habit that was, and it was alcohol that was taking over, and I couldn't function and be like, I couldn't, sitting with what was unraveling after that was very, very hard. I'm not going to say it was easy, very dark, but it had to happen because there was no going back at that point. And it was like, if I don't unlearn what I'm numbing, you know what I mean? Like I had to
Yep.
re-educate myself on, what am I escaping? What am I running from? What am I hiding? What am I numbing? That I'm not just allowing myself a little bit of time. And I could assure you, on my own individual journey, and I'm sure that Stephanie may be able to relate, that it is not easy. It could be very messy. It could be very difficult, but there is the other side. You can come out the other side to where if anything comes up after that, you are better equipped to handle it because you allowed yourself the space to heal it. And that
Yep.
means feeling it, accepting it.
I agree. I agree. It's so much easier once you've gotten to that point. I mean, it's going to be difficult to change the habits and to, forgive yourself and face everything that you know is what you need to stop doing. But getting to that other side, it makes it so much easier every time if that situation comes up again, you know that you can face it and you can walk away from it.
Yep. Because again, everything's cyclical, so those situations will still arise, but
Hmm.
what's different is how we arise to it, right? Like how we
Right.
show up to that experience.
Yep.
Because inevitably it's coming up for opportunity for growth, for us to inevitably learn something, some form of truth. So then that way we can move forward more authentically true to ourselves. And again, that'll be different for every single person. Because another shadow aspect of spirituality, these bullet points, guys, are very real lifetime that I have had in my experience. Over consuming spiritual content without integration. A lot of people on their journey, we all, I don't know if everybody in the world, but a lot of people that I know in my own experience too, that we start wanting to learn a lot about spirituality and getting all the content that we can, that which is great, but it's almost like getting knowledge and not turning it into wisdom, right? Because knowledge becomes wisdom when we teach it out, when we integrate it, when we embody it. So a shadow aspect could be, I know all of the spiritual tools, okay, but are you using them?
Right.
That's the difference. Because if you're still coming to me saying that X, Y, and Z is still constantly happening, and I know that it's her fault, and I know that it's this, spiritual, if you're embodying that spiritual content, then you're going to be more apt. I see this pattern just came up again. I see where I reacted instead of responded. I see where, and there's a different perspective, because what we do is instead of saying you, we turn around to how I can become better, how I am not maybe showing up, um,
Hmm.
and could show up better. Um,
It's
and that,
like,
oh, go ahead.
instead of looking at it as why are they doing this? Why is this happening to me? Why do they continue to do this? Look at it as why am I allowing this? Why am I continuing to put myself in this situation or allowing myself to be put in this situation?
Yeah, what lesson am I needing to learn here that I'm
Hmm.
ignoring?
Right. Right.
That's a huge one, especially when you think that, like, you got the biggest one is when you think that you got it and you're like, I got it. And then you do it for a minute and then you're like, you know what? I think I could have better control. So I could let this X, Y, and Z back in, whether it's a
Hmm.
person, substance, doesn't matter, habit, whatever, because I got a better lens on it.
Hmm.
And then slowly but surely, you got a better lens on it. And what's good about you having a better lens is that you're going to be less apt to let it stay in your environment for long, because you're going to be more equipped to be like, haha, I just tricked myself, jumped right back on that merry-go-round again.
Hmm.
But this time I'm
Yep.
not having it spinning too out of control. It's a little slower, so I can slow the pace of this. And
Hmm.
being mindful of that, that's okay. Because micro changes, not macro, micro changes lead to macro changes.
Yes.
So just one
Baby
little,
steps.
yeah, one little, you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, instead of you dredging your day or not wanting to deal with it, looking at it and say, I'm becoming the best version of myself today.
Hmm.
I'm
Even if you're
allowing what's
doing
meant for
one
me
new
to
thing a
unfold.
day or changing one thing a day, and or you know, like a couple days, what however, is comfortable for you. I'm going to do this, to better myself. And then once I get that down, I'm going to add this to that. And then just keep going until, it comes natural to you.
Hmm. Comes like a domino effect. And think about
Yeah.
it as shifting. You can even say, if change is a heavy word, use the word shifting. I'm
Hmm.
shifting from from this limiting belief to this empowering belief. Because it's super important, for anything that we take out of our lives, we must replace it with something
Hmm.
that makes us feel better than what the other one did. Because otherwise, from personal experience, you'll be more apt and equipped, even if it's not a good one, to fall back into that other habit just because it's easy and it's in your arsenal. So the
Yep.
more new tools you can get, the better. I mean, when I tell you I went down a rabbit hole of tools, from kayaking to hiking to painting to making brooms to gardening to baking, and these are all actual things that I started doing when I really, really took the last 2.5 years specifically to take everything that I've learned and learn how to integrate it. Because that's what I had to do. I had to integrate it because I was living in the shadow of just knowing it but not integrating it. Um, and it was in that it just, you become fun again, because you're
Mm-hmm.
like you're trying all this new stuff out all the time to where the stuff that you used to watch, like I was such a big fan. I'm a spiritual person, but I love me drama TV. I got
Mm-hmm.
myself back into 1 week of drama TV, and I seen how it started affecting me personally, my energy and my environment. Drama started festering. And I'm like, nope, pull it back, get my high vibe music out, start dancing. So we at any time, guys, can shift out of any shadow or limiting belief at any time, especially when you put a conversation like this into your awareness.
Yeah. And when you said that you started doing all these things and you were fun,
Mhm.
it's you were you.
Yeah.
You were you.
Yeah, I was being that kid the curious kid, like when you're,
Yeah.
I want to try that. I want to try that. I want to know what that's about. When you start doing that, guys, spirituality just naturally unfolds, man. When you start like people pleasing your inner child instead of reprimanding yourself all the time to be better, whole world changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you start shifting back into that old mindset, your inner child's like, no, wait a minute. Why are we being so serious right here? We don't need to be. It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessary. It'll all work out. We've been here before, because the shadow aspect, though, it shows up individual, like avoiding hard conversations, using spirituality to not feel pain. Done that too. Done that too. Wanting instant healing instead of doing the work. Oh my goodness, Stephanie.
Oh,
This was an important one for me to bring up in the shadow because, guys, I'm very much the student and the teacher, and I'm living a human experience, though I'm a baddie. But I had my fair share just over this past week of a shadow that came up right there where I was wanting instant healing and solution based for somebody that I cared about. However, not allowing them their time to grieve or let their healing unfold on their own time. Trying to get them to that instant gratification, which, as you guys, if you guys have watched, knows I have a history of that with substance abuse that it turned into in ways where unconsciously it was coming through like that, wanting to just be like, you could feel better right now, it's okay, here's the tool. But it's like that tool will never be embodied if that healing process
right.
doesn't happen first.
You weren't letting them be where they need to be in their journey. You you were trying to get them to where you are in your journey because where you're at in your journey is so awesome and amazing, and you wanted that for that person, and but they need to be where they're supposed to be at this point.
Right. Allowing, trying
Yep.
to allow the person their space to let things unfold too.
Mm-hmm.
And we could want this for everybody because we know how great it feels, but the best way in order to really teach it is just by sharing it, not stuffing it down anybody's throats that this is the above all solution, this is what it's got to be, but just living it, embodying it, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily having to feel like you got to force it to heal somebody because then in a way you're not trusting that they're capable of healing themselves.
Right. And like you were saying earlier about just having all these tools and hoarding all these tools and not using them, in a way you weren't allowing them to use the tools that they have.
Yep, I was just trying to give more. Here,
Yeah.
take a couple of these too. And it's
Yep.
like, okay, well, they've got their own tool. Yes, and that's a beautiful reflection on how to look at that as well because it's true. And even in having these conversations, I want everybody to always know I'm still learning something new in real time. Um, and I never will ever claim to be the master of anything because everything is always ever evolving. And just give yourself, I share that to give yourself grace too. Um, because in finishing out the shadow aspect, because we always like to talk individually and collectively. Collectively, it can show up with positive vibes only, ignoring real world issues in the name of peace. Now, I had kind of not a confrontation, but a disagreement, falling out of sorts with somebody. I was very much in heavy into protesting and wanting to speak up, and I still. but I had to balance the fact of how I was showing up in a way that was energetically draining me, putting me into fear, guilt, shame, and do it in a way that was more empowering, right? Because I didn't want to just ignore the real world issues. I just got tired in the way that I was seeing the real world issues. So I had to go through a period of ignoring them so I could figure out what my piece, what my place, what my beliefs are. And that might be for you guys as well if that's something to completely pull it out for a minute, 30 days or whatever. Sit with yourself and what it is that you got and you feel, and then slowly integrate what you think you may need to know back in, and then check your body. How is it feeling?
Mhm.
Because I know for me, if I start watching and getting into any of that stuff, it's immediately fear based, and I'd rather just turn around and have conversations like this that help you embody and empower your truth. So then that way, when the heaviness is going on out there, you can show up and still be peaceful inside and show
Right.
up and
Sit back
clear
and
up.
yeah, sit back and think about it. And if you find yourself getting, feeling that anxiety and that tension and that, like that negativity involved with what you're doing, sit back and say, is this the outcome that I really want for this? How is this taking me to where I want, to show my purpose or show my support? And
Yeah.
you're talking about the protesting. How is this, you know, getting me to where I want to be with this?
Yeah, and everybody is unique and different. Everybody's because people can protest any which way that has you feel empowered. However, in life with anything that keeps you authentically empowered, always lead with that. For
Hmm.
me, and the way that I can take on energies, being in those environments can be very, very overwhelming and draining in that regard. I've done them many times, but again, just because we had beliefs or ways that we did doesn't mean that be okay with changing and accepting that that is completely okay. Because if we're only holding on to the light, then we're missing where transformation happens. So it's okay to allow yourself to observe, just try not to absorb. So
Right.
then we get into the final part where we get into the growth, where we have the integration of the light and shadow. Kind of showed you guys what it's like of all light, kind of showed you guys an overview of what it's like to be in the shadow when it comes to spirituality. Um, Growth happens when we feel our emotions fully. Goes right back to what Stephanie had already shared. Taking accountability, we've already talked about throughout. So, really, when we were kind of talking about the light and the shadow, we were already kind of sharing the growth. But
Hmm.
just to come back to bring it full circle, since we're nearing the end of our show today, that it's okay to feel sadness without rushing it. You are allowed to feel exactly as you feel. Patience is necessarily in healing because healing is a lifelong journey. Um, Collectively, move more away from performative spirituality into embodied truth. Meaning, what does it look like for you? Not what everybody else says the shiny, excited part, but what does it really feel like and the experiences for you? Because sharing those stories will help more people want to identify their own individual journey.
Hmm.
Um, Choosing more authenticity over approval, but really just trust yourself even when it's uncomfortable, right? Like, really just that's choosing alignment for yourself instead of people pleasing. That could be uncomfortable, especially if
Hmm.
you're so used to people pleasing, or if you see that you're identifying as a victim, see where you could show up and empower yourself. There's an opportunity for growth there. Your growth lives in between the space between awareness and action. So now that you guys have been made aware, now you have conscious choices you can use moving forward to either empower or disempower your life. A couple of tools that you can do is that I wanted to leave you with before we come near the end, because usually we do Tina's reflection time. And we did a little bit of that by sharing kind of what we talked about, an overview of the episode. But grounding your nervous system, very important. Very, very, very important. A quick one you can do because you cannot hear your intuition if you're dysregulated in your body. And that's truthful. You cannot hear your inner knowing. You will only hear your inner critic if your body is not, if your nervous system is dysregulated, meaning if you got a lot of, you'll have a lot of anxiety in your chest. Your heart will be pounding quite a bit. You'll have a debating conversation in your head. Um,
You're talking about me when I'm trying when I'm trying to go to sleep, or I'm trying to even just ground myself. That is me.
Yep, yep. That's That's when our nervous system is not regulated. So bare feet on the ground. The biggest one that I did that helped me a ton, especially in the beginning, was for me hand on the heart. Because when we're putting our hand on our heart, we're letting our internal selves know, inner child, inner critic, whatever you want to call it, that we're safe, that we're okay. Because our mind, it means that our mind is in full survival mode.
Hmm.
It is in full survival, so we need to calm that down by saying, we're okay. We're breathing. I got oxygen in my lungs. Take that second and do a breath in, hold, and then breathe out. I like to do a box breathing that is you breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold again for 4. Just like that. Think of it as a visual box. Okay? That's a big one I really like to do, but the hand on the heart is the biggest. Like I do it in front of conversations, even if I'm in front of a bunch of people, and letting my when my anxiety gets up because I can get really shaky. So nervous system regulating is key in being able to hear what your intuition's trying to say, and then asking yourself. Use a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy tools. Challenge the limited belief. Challenge the thought. What am I feeling? Where do I feel it in my body? What is it trying to show me? These are just a few tools that you can do to help you reground, reset, become more aware. Know that for intuitive building, a quick little thing to know is your first thought is your intuitive hit. Practice small decisions like yes no feelings. When you're asking yourself something or somebody's talking to you, are you leaning towards them or do you feel yourself naturally pull back? That is a genuine, your body will naturally tell you yes or no. These are just important little tools. If anybody is ever interested, you can check out my website where I go deeper into intuitive development series where there's different tools that you can learn that will empower you on your journey from anywhere from birth charts to tarot to divination tools to nervous system regulating. So if that's something that you're interested in, feel free to check out my website at makeupyourpower.com. I have one-on-ones as well as classes now available. Stephanie actually is a part of that. But before we close, I would just like to know, Steph, how do you feel about today? How do you feel about today's conversation? What would you like to close with?
I think that we all just need to learn to take a pause and listen to ourselves. Listen to, as you were saying, how our body is feeling, how we're showing up for ourselves, and face the dark, face the shadow. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Your journey so far in your life has been your journey for a reason, but you need to face the shadows to be able to move past them to become your authentic self.
In your shadows, take the time out for your shadows, not other people's shadows. Because
Correct.
that's where we could tend to try to be the saviors of like, oh my God, I see this shadow or this habit or this thing that's hurting somebody and I just want to fix it. Turn that to yourself because it usually means that there's just some internal healing that needs to go on there. I love that. What a great conversation. Okay, so guess what, everybody? Tomorrow we will have Tina back. She will lead the conversation on religion, sharing both the light and the shadow aspects. We'll have Stephanie's purposeful pause. We'll have Nicole's energy forecast, and we'll also have Tina's reflection time that we've
Yay,
missed
I've
for the
missed
past
it.
few days. I know we missed it the past couple days, so we look forward to having her back here tomorrow um, and sharing space with all of you. So, as I always say, beautiful souls, if you woke up today, it's because your soul still has purpose on this planet. So, please go out there and live it authentically true to you. Love and light, beautiful souls. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Bye.